This week an entry-level hatch. It's a hybrid and it's the MG3. Those of you that know the MG know that it started off with a humble entry-level model and now they've got lots of cars in the range, from petrol cars, petrol electric hybrids and EVs. But it's not just the fact that the range has increased, it's the fact that the prices don't seem to stay the same from one month to the next. We'll talk about that in the car. Meanwhile, this 1.5 litre hybrid, it's got projector LED headlights for the top model. There's two models in the range, the Excite and the Essence. The Essence is the top model, and there's the petrol or hybrid in each. And it's so nice to come into a car park and see a blue car instead of one that's white, grey or black, or some kind of horrible beige colour, or some of those horrible greens. The top model, of course, for $30,000 drive away, this is around $33,000-ish. Oddly, the same price as an MG4 electric, the bottom range. Very strange. Anyway, this one has a sunroof, all of the things that you would expect in a more expensive car, quite frankly. Now, when this model first came out, I was very surprised that the prices were all more than $20,000, whereas the previous generation, they'd had some cars in the teens. So that means MG's now completely abandoned the under $20,000 price bracket as well. No doubt that'll be filled by another Chinese car maker. With the seat set for me, there's only this much space. I'm not even going to try and get in. So obviously it's for taller drivers. You're not going to have anybody in the back seat unless they're vertically challenged. And that's the other thing about MG too. I've just seen the 7-year warranty. Now on the website, when I was doing a little research, I thought I'd have a look at the public website to see what the drive away prices were, etc. And it said there was a 10-year warranty. Like all of these things, I get very confused by the warranties. Is it 7-year or is it 10-year? The boot is a decent size for a car of this size. This is a very small car. And you can still fit, I've got a knapsack in there that doesn't quite come up to the floor. I think that's not a bad size. All right, now we're inside. I'm going to start this baby up and it all comes to life. There's a smaller readout here, sort of motorcycle size, gamer size, a digital readout. There's no head-up display, but I don't expect one for this price. And let me turn the music down. And this is the interface for the screen. So the main screen is fairly simple. You swipe to one side, settings, etc., and down the side here are the fixed software buttons. Some simple buttons along the bottom, fan and temperature, etc., demisters front and back, home screen, volume up and down, and air conditioning on and off. Down below is the hazard flasher, and then underneath that a couple of USB-Cs. Only one of those connects to the system. And let me just turn my phone upside down. And you'll see that we now have CarPlay. This system is much faster than the MG4 that I was using last week. Let me go back to the home screen, it was just slow and sluggish. There are a few things I don't like about this interface. For example, the only place that you can go to use your shortcuts is the actual radio screen. The buttons that control them on the steering wheel will just scroll through every channel, which is really annoying. The other side is for cruise control. Something that you have to make sure is activated in one of these menus. In other words, if you don't activate it, you have no cruise control, or it's dumb cruise control. I do not know why you would want to turn that off ever, and in fact you shouldn't be able to. Some of the other annoying things you have to turn off every time you get in the car. The star buttons are pretty handy. That's sort of like the Hyundai group really, and you can program those to do different things. You can see the little figure just here goes from 1, 2 to 3, and that signifies just how strong the regenerative braking is. The center console is a fairly neat affair. It's sort of piano black but in white. It's got a rotary dial for the gears, so to speak, the park brake, auto hold and drive mode button. Plus there is a little bin as well. There's tons of cubby holes, some cup holders, and in the side some door pockets. I think the cabin theme is very nice. It's all plastic, including the vinyl-y looking leather cover. And because this is the top model, the seats are upholstered in PU and fabric, which means vinyl and fabric. Even your Mercedes-Benz and your BMWs have plastic in the entry-level models. There's no fancy auto mirror here. It's a strictly manual affair. And finally, the little overhead console with the sunroof button. There's a manual shade here, which you can close, or at least you could if I didn't have a camera glued to it. And that's basically it. This is pretty simple. At least the CarPlay in this car works. It didn't work for me in the MG4, no matter what I did. All right. Now, according to this, I've got 599 kilometers to empty, and I'd actually believe it. I got asked yesterday, what do I have to do as the driver to change it between electric mode and other modes? Nothing. I'm not touching a single thing. I'm just leaving it in normal mode because sport, frankly, doesn't do much for me. You've got to turn the overspeed alert off every single time. And the reason I'm turning it off is, as anyone that uses a speed sign recognition system knows, it's usually wrong. This is just in normal mode. This is incredibly frisky. It's around 150 kilowatts and over 420 Newton meters. Here I'll turn the, okay, I've now got the cruise control on. It's set at the speed limit and it's going to keep me a distance from the car in front. Also, it's keeping me in the center of the lane. The ride is reasonably good. As you can see, by the way, the cabin is quite noisy. The steering feels a little neutral, I would say, which is neither good nor bad. But if you're expecting a sporty handling, it's not sporty. Could I do a long trip in this? Not sure. Not sure. And as I said, it got a 3-star ANCAP rating recently, mainly because it didn't have a center airbag. I mentioned before the official fuel figure. This is on 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres. So for a change, it's not a world out. The other thing I like on the dash is that I can see how much I'm recovering. So 40 kilowatts at the moment just in braking, which was pretty amazing considering I wasn't going particularly fast. People buy on price. And this is pretty good value for money. Yes, it is small. It is very cheaply made. There's no doubt about it. But the cabin looks $1 million, considering it's entry level. There's everything in it I could possibly want. The seats are comfortable despite the fact that they're covered with a plastic fabric. I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. The drive is more than reasonable and certainly 1,000,000 times better than the previous generation. It's got a long warranty. Gosh. And finally, before I go, on one of our previous reviews, there was a comment this week. The review was a year or two old. And the person said, well, before you go recommending things, you should do your homework. Well, I would say two things. We're not recommending anything, we're reviewing it, and he should understand the difference. Next, we do our homework. We can only review a car on the day. If it turns out to be a lemon, well, it turns out to be a lemon. If it functioned perfectly on the day, that's all we can report on. So don't be such a knobhead. That's all this week for the MG3 Essence Hybrid. Not a bad car for the price. As always, hit like, leave a comment, and just over there to subscribe.